Women only want men that other women want. It's like they're a hive mind.
Oh, mother, get serious.
I want to rent you.
Rent me?
Yeah. You pretend you like me, and we go out for just a few weeks. And that will make me popular. Hey, man. Good to see you, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, ladies.
You're looking rather tasty yourself. You're taking me to Scoop Saturday night.
I was gonna ask him out.
The worst part about still being an unwanted man past the typical age of young adulthood, with no relationship experience, no social circle, no connections with any women, and just very limited social connections in general. The worst thing is just the fact that social proof is such an enormously important factor in attracting women. Looks are more important, I would say, but your social status as a man is the one thing that can actually make an average guy seem attractive. Or it can go the other way, where a lack of social status can make a good-looking guy seem less attractive. There is a certain level of looks on both ends of the spectrum where social status won't make any difference. Or maybe it's better to say that at a certain level, your looks determines your social status. Like if we're talking about Henry Cavill, for example, there's no way he couldn't have social proof because he's just so good looking, women will want him regardless. A woman looks at a guy like that and she just automatically assumes other women want him too. And she'd be right about that. But for a guy that's maybe above average looking, but not quite on Chad level, social proof can be a make it or break it thing. So, say a guy that's slightly above average meets a girl at a bar or whatever, and he gets her number. Everything seems to be going well. She seems to be interested. But then she checks out the guy's social media, and she can see that he doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. There's no traces of any past relationships. He doesn't have any other girls commenting on his posts. A girl sees that and she starts to think, oh, this guy's a loser. Even if she thought he was cool and attractive in person, if she can't find any evidence that other women also think he's cool and attractive, then game over. It's over. That's it. The social proof has to be there. Now, let's take a look at the reverse of that. Say there's a guy that's just average looking, but somehow he's had lots of ex-girlfriends. He's in the popular crowd. All of his friends are cool, good-looking guys. Well, that guy is probably going to be able to attract women that you would think are outside of his league. Because women see that other women have chosen him in the past, and they'll think, well, there must be a reason for that. And usually there is. Maybe the guy's rich, maybe he's a star athlete or something. There usually is a reason when an average-looking guy like that succeeds beyond expectations. But with enough social proof, the original reason he was able to get that social proof doesn't even matter. Women are very easily influenced by their surroundings. It's the same reason why so many women get so radically obsessed with trans rights and random social causes like that. There's so much propaganda about these things. If a woman thinks that most people around her believe something, then she will adopt that belief 99% of the time. There is nothing women fear more than social ostracization. A lot of men are the same way, I think, but there's also a lot of guys that are contrarian by nature, and men tend to have at least a little bit of testosterone running through their veins. If you don't know, one of the effects of testosterone is it makes you less willing to submit to social pressure. So it is a fact that women tend to be more susceptible to the hive mind than men are. Not to say most men these days aren't also a hive mind. I mean, testosterone levels on average have been declining since the 1980s, which is quite apparent if you just look at popular media coming out these days. But anyways, it makes it really difficult for a man to turn his life around when you're starting from a position of not having had any social connections from an early age. There are average looking guys out there that do relatively well with the ladies, even today. I know in this corner of the internet, people always like to say looks is literally the only thing that matters. And I've said that too. It is mostly true. That's why so many of us say that. But for men that are borderline in looks, you're kind of on that edge between being below the minimum looks threshold or being just good looking enough. So basically, if you're right around average to a bit above average looking, that's where social proof can really make a difference. And a lot of men are in that zone. Millions of men. Definitely at least some of you listening to this right now are in that zone where social proof actually matters. I mean, even myself, looking back on certain events, like not too long ago when the girl working at the grocery store seemed like maybe she was flirting with me. I mean, I can't really be sure. She definitely wasn't flirting with me the way that they flirt with Chad, where they just make it blatantly obvious. But she did smile at me and she said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she said it in a way like, it just sounded very sweet the way she said it. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe that was just her doing her job and greeting me as a customer. I don't know. But the thing is, I was there with my baby cousin. So this girl probably assumed I was his dad. And just from that, boom, that gave me social proof. She saw me with a toddler, and so she just assumed that meant that another woman has chose me. So in that moment, with her having just seen me from a bit of a distance, she probably just couldn't really see what my face looked like. So just from the social proof alone, that was enough to get her attracted. Or maybe she was just saying hello because she's at work and she's supposed to do that. I don't know. But I think it's likely that I just had some social proof in that moment. In other words, I looked like a guy that other women had already approved of. Because that's really what it's all about with the female hive mind. It's all about social acceptance. They all want to be at the top of the social hierarchy. And if they can't be at the top, they want to at least fit in somewhere in the realm of acceptability. Essentially, what it boils down to is a deep instinctual desire to be a part of the tribe. Men have that desire too. It's just that for women, the strategies they employ to fulfill that desire are different. But there is another element at play too. Most women in this modern day and age, they know that it is very possible to live their lives with zero accountability, zero responsibility. They learned that at a very early age. And I'm not even saying that's a biological thing. It could be, but also they're socialized into having that mindset. Girls learn very early on that turning on the waterworks and just crying is enough to get them out of 99% of tough situations. And there's other tactics, obviously, but I think you get the point. Okay, so if you can imagine growing up, living your life with zero accountability, just really getting away with every little thing, and then on top of that, everybody just treats you like you're royalty. Not literally everybody. Chad's not treating these chicks like they're royalty, but most guys are, and all our institutions back that up. It's backed up in the workplace, the school system, etc. Yada yada. Water is wet. The point I'm making is because women grow up accustomed to not having any responsibility, not having to be held accountable, they get used to that lifestyle. They get used to living a lifestyle where they don't have to exercise a sense of agency. They don't have to make decisions. Or they don't have to make any hard decisions. Women can't even decide what they want to eat for dinner. I know that's a meme, but there is some truth to it. You can argue that women are just naturally less decisive than men, and maybe that's true. There probably is some truth to that. But there's also an element of nurture to that. It's not 100% biological. They act that way because they can. And they learn that they can act that way and get away with it at a very early age. They learn it in their youth. So here's the point. Women don't want to have to decide whether or not a man would be a good partner. They don't want to have to decide if it's worth their time to commit to a certain man, whatever that may entail. They don't want to have to decide for themselves if any given man is worth the risk. So they go with the hive mind. If a man has already been chosen, he's already been pre-approved by other women, then that's a yes. She doesn't have to think about it. She doesn't have to exercise her own sense of agency. And if things don't work out, like he cheats on her or he mistreats her in any way, she doesn't have to feel any sense of blame on herself, if that makes sense. Basically, she can justify her poor choice in men. Internally, she can justify that like, well, I was just going with what other women thought. Everybody seemed to think he's a great guy. How could I have known better? Part of the whole social proof thing is just women trying to offload their decision-making onto other women. They're offloading their own agency onto the hive mind. And to some extent, that is a reasonable strategy. Like, it probably should be part of any person's decision-making process to consider what other people think about something. I mean, you probably read reviews online before you buy a new vacuum cleaner or whatever, but most women just 100% defer to the hive mind. They don't even try to make decisions for themselves. They don't want to try, and they don't try to think things through for themselves. I mean, seriously, when was the last time you heard a woman give a genuinely hot take? Say something that's genuinely controversial. They love to act like they're a free thinker when they say something like, hot take, I know, but I actually think Adam Driver is kind of hot. Tee-hee-hee. Like, oh, no way. You actually think that the 6'3" movie star is attractive? Wow, what a unique opinion. Or you'll see a woman in a conservative area being like, you know what? Fuck conservatives. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to go against the grain. I speak my mind. As if that's not just her going along with the hive mind. I don't know if y'all know this, but I come from a solidly red state, and I can tell you, most people my age or younger are liberal, especially women. And I'm old. I'm 37. Most millennials in the deep red South are liberal or progressive. Or I don't know about most necessarily, but it's 50-50 at least. And with women, it's more like 70-30. Not that your physical location even matters that much anymore as far as the hive mind goes on certain topics. Social media makes it so it's more of just one single hive mind for the entire English-speaking world. Growing up, some guys are just screwed from the start. Even if a guy is above average looking, if he was homeschooled and his parents didn't put him in any sports or any kind of activity where he could interact on a frequent basis with his peers, that can and usually does have lifelong consequences on a man's life. Social proof is so important. If you grow up socially isolated in your youth, especially if you're naturally introverted, that's just a breeding ground for social anxiety. For an introverted guy to have any chance of acquiring sufficient social proof, he's got to start early. He's got to get a friend group established early on if there's ever going to be any hope of him having any success with women later on down the road. And this isn't just for guys that were homeschooled. Even if a guy was always in public school, if his parents moved around a lot and he was just never in one place long enough to get established with a group of friends, then it's just very hard, especially for introverts. Although it's not easy for extroverts either when you got all the cards stacked against you. Although I will say, yeah, the whole introvert versus extrovert thing, is it nature? Is it nurture? Probably a bit of both. But I will say that being socially isolated for a long period of time, that's enough to make someone that would have naturally been more extroverted to go more in the introverted direction. Because at some point, you just have to in order to cope. You have to develop a rich inner world to cope with your isolation. I wasn't even particularly isolated in my youth, I wouldn't say, just in the sense that I was always in sports and I wasn't homeschooled, but I was in private school up till the 8th grade. It was a small private school where I was in class with the same 10 to 15 other kids for all those years. So just from that, I think it did contribute to my social isolation. Now, would I have been able to blossom as a social butterfly had I been in public school? Probably not. But I would have at least had a better chance to get established in a social circle. I know my parents were trying to do what they thought was best for me. I don't hold it against them. But I do think it's possible that that part of my upbringing heavily contributed to my social isolation. That is partially responsible for getting me to this point in my life where it's like, I'm 37 years old. I've never had any close friends. I don't have any social proof. You know, let's say I meet a woman tomorrow at the local Target when I'm shopping for socks or whatever, and somehow she's really attracted to me. I don't know, maybe she had a botched LASIK surgery or something. So she finds me attractive. She likes me, and let's say we make plans to hang out. Well, I guarantee she's going to be trying to look me up on Facebook or Instagram as soon as she gets back to her car. So then she's going to find out, hey, this guy's a fucking loser. He doesn't have any pictures with friends. He seemingly doesn't even know any women his age. No past relationships. What a loser. Bada bing, bada boom. Date canceled. I mean, I think that might be what happened with the gym girl. For those that aren't familiar, I had a date set up with this girl from my boxing gym a while back, and everything seemed to be going great. Then she wanted to FaceTime before the date, and as soon as I got my face on camera, she just hung up and ghosted me. Never heard from her again. I don't know for sure what that was all about. I don't think I'll ever know for sure. But one of my main theories is that she had her friends there to see what I looked like, and they didn't approve. And so it was just an instant no. Because the council decided I was unworthy. Even if she actually did like me, which is the way it seemed, the way we had been texting a lot, it seemed like she liked me. But that didn't matter, because if my theory is correct, her council of stupid broads thought I was ugly. So that was that. That was it. But like I say, I don't know for sure if that's what happened, but just from everything, about how it went down, I think that is a pretty likely theory. This is why it always seems like every woman goes for the same exact guys, because even if a woman did have unorthodox taste in men, as soon as she realizes her peers do not approve, she will instantly change her mind. I saw a news statistic somewhere that said something like 90% of women are sleeping with the same 10% of men. I didn't look into it. I don't know if that's true or not. But I do know, just from my own observations, there's no way that that is very far off. Because women just continue to get more and more radicalized, and they keep getting more and more narrow in terms of what preferences and what beliefs are acceptable as determined by the hive mind. Which, again, the hive mind is determined on an international scale. Okay, it's not just what her personal council of vapid floozies she knows in real life think. Women tend to defer to the wider hive mind consisting of what's acceptable to the mainstream across all of social media. And disapproval is always more impactful than positive approval. Okay? That's a very important point to keep in mind. Women are very, very afraid of social ostracization. So just a few loud voices on TikTok expressing disapproval over something, that is enough to completely scare away like 99% of all women. Even if a woman herself does not personally see those opinions on social media, it will still get to her through people she knows in real life that did witness it. Like, the hive mind is all encompassing. Okay, they're all getting the same information. They're all getting the same algorithm. Like, it seeps into the real world. They can't avoid it, and we can't avoid it. We as men cannot avoid the consequences of it. So, like I'm saying, disapproval is way more impactful than positive approval. So even if there is equally as much positive approval being expressed for any given thing on social media, the disapproving voices outweigh the approving voices. So what we see is a rapidly shrinking window of what women see as acceptable belief or acceptable style or whatever the case may be. As a man that is interested in dating women, these days it's like you have to fit into such an extremely narrow mold in order to have any chance. And there's so much gaslighting about it too. There's all this talk of tolerance and diversity and everything, but in reality, women these days have never been less tolerant of a man that does not exactly fit the mold of what a desirable man is. You have to have a good job. You have to be tall. You have to be attractive in a very specific hive mind approved way. Your political opinions must align with the feminine mainstream. It has never been harder for a man to find acceptance. It's never been harder. I mean, we're at a point right now where a whole lot of young women are willing to go no contact with their immediate family members over slight differences of political opinion. There was a video going around about a year ago where some crazy purple-haired woman who was still wearing a mask in 2025, she was basically chastising her grandfather over his political views, calling him fascist and racist and everything, and she was explaining to him why she just had to go no contact with him. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I don't really care to see that. Here's a quick clip of this crazy person, just so you can see what I'm talking about. This isn't even from that interview, but I just thought it was funny.
So shout out to TikTok for mostly showing this interview to right-wing TikTok. Not only have we been processing our rabbit's death.
Like, oh my God, oh no, not the rabbit. Like, just the idea of somebody talking about processing their rabbit's death. Like, I get it. If you have a pet rabbit that passed away, you're gonna be sad about it. Anybody would. But also, it's a rabbit. It's not that much to process. But anyways, yeah, this is obviously a crazy person. You can just tell from, everything about her. So I know most women aren't this crazy. I'm not saying they are. But it is increasingly common for women to feel justified in cutting off the people in this world that care about them and support them the most just because they have differing opinions on certain things. And especially with your elderly grandfather, just let him be fascist if you think he's fascist. Okay, just leave him be. I mean, Jesus Christ, he doesn't have that much time left. That's your grandpa, for crying out loud. But this is how narrow-minded the hive mind has gotten. They can't even accept that their 87-year-old grandparents are obviously going to have a different view on the world. Duh, that's just how it is. They come from a different time. It's crazy, too, how blind these people are to the fact that 50, 60 years from now, the next generation of young people is going to think the exact same thing about them. They can't even see that. It's pathetic. And it's really just sad. These people excommunicate their own family in favor of the social media hive mind. Just insane. If you found this video insightful and you want to hear more ancient esoteric knowledge just like this, please consider watching some of my other videos. There's also some secret videos you can watch for free on my Patreon, videos that YouTube does not want you to see. No sign-up required. It's totally free to watch. Thank you for watching this one, and I'll see you next time.